Okay, welcome everyone to our Nutrition During the Holidays workshop. I am Kirsten Philpott. I'm one of the Healthy Lifestyles health educators. I'm also a certified National Diabetes Prevention Coach and a certified intuitive eating counselor. And so I know that especially as we go into the holidays, that often this is a topic that comes up and that we think a lot about. And so we wanted to bring this workshop to you guys because we want you to know that you should be able to enjoy your holidays and you can still do it in a nutrient dense way that honors your body while also, giving you that satisfaction of all the flavors and the fun foods that come with the holidays. And so to get started, I wanted to first start off talking a little bit about gentle nutrition. If you've taken our intuitive eating class, you know that this is the last principle of intuitive eating. And intuitive eating is an anti-diet approach to food, nutrition, and movement. And the last principle is gentle nutrition. And with gentle nutrition, the focus is focusing on addition and not subtraction. There's this really great quote in the book. I have it up on the screen. It says, "Remember that you do not have to eat perfectly to be healthy. You will not suddenly get a nutrient deficiency or gain weight from one snack, one meal, or one day of eating." And oftentimes, as we move into the holiday season and we have Thanksgiving and we have parties and we have Christmas or other holidays that come up, we can feel like if we eat poorly on one day, that it just throws our whole 2 months off. And that's just not true. We know that one day of eating fun food isn't going to truly affect our nutrition. And so when we talk about nutrition and gentle nutrition through the holidays, we're talking about adding things into our diet that we already eat. And so we want to, especially throughout this season, we want to take away the shame that exists around food. Especially here at Healthy Lifestyles, we think it's so important that we destigmatize food as good and bad. And I love this quote by Michelle Stacy. She says, "We will not be healthier, both psychologically and physically, about our food until we love it more, not less, with a relaxed, generous, unashamed emotion. In the process, it may be that we will have to redefine fundamentally the concept of eating well." And so I just want you to keep that in mind as we then move to some nutrition basics and how we can add some more nutrient density into our holiday meals. But first, I would love to hear what everyone's favorite holiday meal, appetizer, dessert, whatever it may be, whatever that holiday treat is that you're looking forward to, throw it in the chat. I'd love to hear what some of those are so that we can see that we are not alone, that we all love the holidays and the food it brings. So throw it in the chat. If you have a really good recipe, this is a great time to throw it in the chat as well so we can all enjoy your favorite foods together. Lots of stuffing. We've got stuffed mushrooms, death by chocolate. That sounds delicious, Kumbi. Chocolate truffles. I love it. Pumpkin pie for breakfast. My husband actually had pumpkin pie for breakfast this morning. We had a neighbor drop off a pumpkin pie to us last night, and he ate it for breakfast. That's great, Beth. Okay, so feel free to keep throwing them in the chat, but I want to just talk about some of these macronutrients. So there's three macronutrients. I'm sure that most of you, if not all of you, know what these are, but we have carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And when we're looking at our plate and when we're looking at nutrition, it's so important that we have all three of these. Carbohydrates are our body's main source of energy and necessary for healthy brain and muscle tissue. Protein provides cells, your organs, your hair, your nails, your skin, your muscles, and your bones. So it's vital to our diet. And then fat is required for energy reserves, protection of our organ, and absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. And just to be clear, this is not an exhaustive list of all these things that the macronutrients do. There's many other important things that they help with in our bodies. But this is just kind of the basics. But I wanted to show you how important each and every one of them are. And when it comes to nutrition, of course, not all carbohydrates or proteins or fats are created equal, but we try and get them where we can, and we don't feel any guilt for where we do. And the good news is when it comes to the holidays, we are going to be able to find all of these items in plenty. You can find your carbohydrates in things like brown rice, whole oats, quinoa, broccoli, carrots, parsnips, potatoes, apples, berries, crackers, beans, lentils, milk, and yogurt, and so much more. Your protein can be found in that Thanksgiving turkey or your holiday ham, your chicken, your eggs, your beef, your lamb, your pork, your salmon, your milk, your cheese, your yogurt, beans, lentils, nuts, edamame, tempeh, tofu, and the list can go on there as well. For fats, the most common sources of fats are your oils, coconuts, avocados, nuts, seeds, your fatty fishes, yogurts, and cheese. And as you look at this list, you can probably see that there's a lot of overlap. For example, yogurt, milk, and cheese happens to be in all three macronutrient categories. So there's lots of ways to get our nutrients. And it's important that when we're building our plate, that we're looking at all the nutrients on our plate. But we want to remember that food is not the enemy. So as you go into the holidays, I want you to, and this is really great to just do every day, but we want to be asking ourselves some key questions. And this can go for a party, it can go for your everyday dinner, but we want to be asking ourselves, are we hungry? Am I actually hungry in this moment? And how hungry am I? When we're looking at the food spread that may be before us, we can ask ourselves, what do I want? Do I want what is available to me? Or is there nothing on this plate or in this buffet that looks appetizing? Will I feel deprived if I don't eat it? This is something that we talk a lot about throughout intuitive eating, but oftentimes when we try to deprive ourselves from something, the result is we eat everything else around it, and then we still end up eating the item we initially wanted. So if you're going to feel deprived by not eating it, the best idea is to just go and have yourself some. Another question to ask is, will it be satisfying? And this means tuning going to feel good in an hour, in 2 hours. Is my body going to thank me for eating it? Or am I going to not feel so great afterwards? Satisfaction can also be talking about the taste and the texture. Am I going to like eating it? Is it going to taste good? Is it going to, make me feel good, both physically and emotionally when I eat it? And so those are things that we can ask ourselves as we go into the holidays. And then a personal affirmation that I think is super important that we remind ourselves is that I deserve to enjoy eating without guilt, right? There does not need to be guilt or shame surrounding our food choices. And that's really important as we go into the holidays, and specifically, right, maybe in places that we don't have as much say over what's in front of us. Oftentimes, when it comes to holiday parties or Thanksgiving, we tend to not eat before we have these huge meal buffets. But the result is if we go into these parties and we haven't eaten all day, right? If you're a 2 o'clock in the afternoon Thanksgiving family, or if you're a 5 o'clock in the evening Thanksgiving family and you haven't eaten all day, chances are you're going to be ravenous, which means it makes it very difficult to make choices that actually sound good to you and that will feel good in your body. And so this up on the screen is our hunger fullness scale that we like to use. And it's just an easy way that we can think in our minds kind of and measure where we're at within our body. So we scale it from 1 to 10, with 1 being ravenous and 10 being that painfully full, I feel sick, could possibly throw up kind of feeling. And ideally, no matter when we're eating, we kind of want to sit between that 4 and that 7. That 4 is that I'm a little hungry and I could definitely eat, right? 3 is very hungry. 2 is uncomfortably hungry. So we want to try and avoid that 1, 2, and 3. And ideally eat when we're just comfortably hungry. 3 is also okay, right? Because it just means that we're probably to the point that we need that meal right now, or we're going to hit that 2. And then as we eat, we want to check in with our bodies. How are we feeling? Are we getting to be satisfied? Could we eat a couple more bites? Are we full? And the goal is to stop at that full, that number 7, where we're satisfied, but we're not overly stuffed. We're not needing to pull out our stretchy pants, right? We're just comfortable and we're no longer thinking about food or dwelling about food. And so when it comes to the hunger fullness scale, this is a great tool to have in our minds every day, to know when we want to eat and when we can stop eating. When it comes to our plate, sometimes, right, when we have a huge spread out before us, we just fill up with the first things that we see. But a great way to make sure that we're still getting nutrient density, even in our holiday meals, is by looking at what our plate looks like. And ideally, without counting any kind of calories, without counting any type of macros, we can do that simply by looking what is on our plate. And so the goal would be 50% non-starchy vegetables. These could be things like pumpkin, or a salad, or asparagus, or some corn, or a green bean casserole. It could be things like some roasted carrots and turnips, or some onions, some Brussels sprouts. Oftentimes we find these things at our holiday banquets, but they tend to sometimes not sit at the very front of the buffet. But if we fill our plates up with half of these first, then we know automatically that our body is getting a lot of nutrient density in. The other half of our plate, we want to fill with 25% protein. So that can be your turkey, your ham, maybe a bean salad would be some great options for protein. And then the other 25% is your fiber-filled carbohydrates. And those could be your rolls and your sweet potato casserole, your berries, your nuts, things like that. And so when you're looking at your Thanksgiving spread or your holiday spread, try and match your plate this. And remember that you can always come back for seconds. Sometimes we fill up and our eyes are way bigger than our stomach. But you can always just grab a plate, fill it up with what you think you're going to be comfortable with. And if you're more hungry, go back and get some more. So that's a great kind of a visual of what we want our plates to look like. Anyone have any questions so far kind of about the things we've gone through? They're pretty basic information, but I want to be able to answer your questions, or if you have any thoughts, please feel free to share them. Okay, so how can we add some nutrient density into our already preconceived recipes? These are just some different swaps and additives that can help us enhance some flavor, maybe not change any flavor, but also add some nutrients to our meals. So one is we can replace sour cream in a recipe with blended cottage cheese or plain Greek yogurt, and this helps increase our protein level. You can add a scoop of collagen powder to your hot chocolate or your eggnog to help balance some blood sugars. We can replace all-purpose flour with whole wheat flour or whole oats, or a little bit of half and half, so you're still getting the same flavor. If you're a family that does like apple pie, you can maybe try an apple crisp and add some nuts like almonds and walnuts to that crisp to give you some added nutrients in your fat macronutrient. Instead of using vegetable or peanut oil or soy oil, you can try olive oil or avocado oil. I highly recommend trying to add in a seafood dish when it comes to your holiday spread for a boost in omega-3s. This doesn't have to happen for Thanksgiving, but a lot of times we're hosting different holiday parties or going to holiday parties, and we can find ways that we can add in like a dish that can help boost those omega-3s and those protein. You can steam and mash cauliflower into those mashed potatoes. If you do it half and half, you won't be able to taste the cauliflower. I personally don't like just straight mashed cauliflower, but you can always just add them into the potatoes that you're already mashing. You can top your sweet potatoes with slivered almonds or walnuts. Add quinoa into your holiday salad for some texture and added protein. Quinoa is a great because not only is it a carbohydrate, it's also a complete protein. So it's a really great way to hit, two of those macronutrients in one. And then in our pie crust, you can add almond flours or another nut flour to our pie crust to once again just increase some of that nutrient density. And this is not an exhaustive list, but sometimes we forget that there are ways to add some solid nutrients to our meals that won't change the flavor or the texture or the feel of them, but can help us feel just a little bit better about the foods we're putting in our bodies. Some other things to remember is that when we go to our holiday parties, like I said, don't go on an empty stomach, right? We be comfortable. It doesn't mean you need to go, to the party full. We don't want to not want to eat. We want to be able to enjoy the meal that's in front of us, but to still eat your normal snacks and meals throughout the day so that when we do get there, we're not ravenous and we can still make good, wholesome choices. We also, like I said, we want to build our plate starting with the veggies first. Start building it with that 50% of your plate being vegetables, and then fill up everything else afterwards. We can start small, right? Remember, you can always go back or take leftovers. I personally don't think there's anything wrong rolling up to a holiday party with a little bit of Tupperware and getting some of that Tupperware filled to help you with your lunch and your dinner the next day. And then remember that you have the power to say no thank you, guilt-free. If you're full or it's not a food that you want or that you like, it is 100% okay to say no thank you. Give yourself that permission. But you also have the power to say yes, please, 100% guilt-free. If there's, that third piece of pie and you want it, you don't have to feel guilt over eating it. Like we said in the beginning, right? One day isn't going to throw your nutrition off. It's not going to suddenly cause you to have a chronic disease or to gain weight. And so we don't need to be worried about that on these few days throughout the year where it's all about family and friends and socializing and gathering. We don't need to feel guilt about the food that's in front of our plate. So if you want it, say yes, please. And if you don't, that's okay. Say no, thank you. You have that power and that ability. And then I just want to mention two more things when it comes to our nutrition, that may seem unrelated, but movement is super important when it comes to our blood sugars, managing our blood sugars, as well as just helping our digestive system. There is great power in a 10-minute walk right after we eat. We know that it can level our blood sugars drastically, and it also can help our digestive system move. It can make sure that we are still, remaining healthy and active and able to enjoy those meals. So I would highly encourage you after your Thanksgiving meal or after your holiday party, invite your friends to go for a walk, invite your family to go for a walk, and enjoy each other's company in that way as well. We know that vitamin D and sunlight can help with a lot of our mood disorders. And so it's a great way to not only aid our digestive system, but also aid our mental health. And it's super easy to do. The second one is sleep. Sleep is crucial in a healthy metabolism and appetite. So when we're not getting enough appetite, also has a decreased appetite. It also has a big effect on our metabolism because sleep is the time that our body replenishes our growth hormone, which is really a huge factor in how our metabolism reacts on a day-to-day basis. And so when we aren't getting enough sleep, even just one night of sleep, lack of sleep can really affect how our body feels, how our gut feels, and what type of hunger or fullness we are feeling. And so we want to make sure that we're not staying up until 2 a.m., right, to baste that turkey or whatever it is, or to bake those pies or to bake those rolls, that we, if we can, we try and plan ahead and make sure that we are getting enough sleep, especially throughout all of the holidays, that we're giving our minds a time to relax and de-stress and to take care of our body in the way that it needs to. And so sleep has a huge effect on our daily nutrition. But that's all I have for you. We've got a couple minutes left. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts or slides they would like me to go back over? If not, you guys are welcome to hop off, and I'm so glad that you guys joined us today. Thanks, Holly. All right, we'll see everyone a little bit later. Have a good day.